Regular meeting of the Avon Lake Board of Municipal Utilities for Tuesday, April 2nd. I'm sorry, what do I have?
That's the last meeting,
I'm sorry, that night. Wow,
April 16th meeting.
I probably have everything wrong. That's okay. My apologies for that. April 16th. Here with us is board member Dave Brickey, Daniel Schauble, Tony Abram, and myself, Tim Rush. And without objections, Mr. John Dwanzik is excused. Also in the audience this evening, thank you, appreciate that. Mr. Dave Marquardt, former chairman of the board of this establishment.
Thank you very much for allowing me to be here.
Sure. And Councilwoman Amy Gentry, and from staff here, we have Robin Rose, our CUE, and our CUO, Greg Urnich. First item on the agenda this evening is the approval of minutes of
April 2nd. April 2nd.
April 2nd. Maybe that's not, this is messed up. I probably did. So do we have a motion? Were there any corrections or additions to those minutes?
Whatever. Well written.
Okay, with no comments, they are approved as written. The next item is correspondence. Mr. Monroe, is there any correspondence?
Public speakers.
Did I miss public speakers already? I sure did. Do we have any public speakers?
No comments at this time?
One question.
Certainly. Do we want to-
There was some work that was done on James Circle. Are you familiar? I think it was last year.
In what type of work?
Some, the culvert, there was some culvert work done on the corner. Somebody had complained there's still standing water there,
Okay.
and it wasn't like that before the work was done.
Okay.
I can follow up with pictures.
Yes, if you could give us an address. Are you familiar with it?
Yeah, I believe that engineering had looked at that. They had, I believe it was UUI was the contractor, came back and repaired the concrete, and they said it was a problem with the street not having enough slope to begin with, that it wasn't directly because of that work. I know our engineering services department had responded with a couple of emails and pictures, showing the before and after. And their opinion was that there was just not enough slope. They would have to repave the entire street to get it to completely flow away from there.
Okay.
Mr. Monroe, can you explain to us how we're live streaming this?
Yes, absolutely. So this evening we are live streaming to our YouTube channel and also Facebook live. If anyone has any comments during the public speakers portion, we can read those as you post them.
Thank you. As of this moment, Mr. Urnich, any comments on social media?
None on social media. And if I may, if you wanted to, I can follow up via email and show you those pictures and provide more information if you'd like.
Yeah, I appreciate that follow-up. Okay, next issue would be correspondence.
The only piece of correspondence I do have this evening is I provided a position letter to Austin Page, the city's zoning manager, regarding a variance application that was submitted for a parcel on the corner of Armour and Electric, and providing our perspective. The variance application is asking that the zoning board grant them a variance that would require them to develop Armour Street in totality as far as utilities go. And we obviously are in opposition to that because of the fact that every developer that develops in Avon Lake does have to develop all the utilities on a platted street, and this would be no different. There are additional buildable lots to the south of this parcel, so I did provide that to zoning, and that is all I have.
All right. Thank you. Any comments on that from the board?
Yeah, where is this at now? Armor and Electric?
It's on the corner of Armour and Electric. It would be the southwest corner. It's right.
Entrance to Cough
Yes.
Reservation.
Yes.
Okay, right in there then.
Yes. So Armour is a
Okay.
platted street that does continue south there.
Right.
They feel that they could take water and sanitary sewer off of Electric, which those utilities are there. But if this variance were to be granted, it would provide them with an unfair advantage over other developers that have had to follow the requirements to develop a street. It also would put an undue burden on us as a utility in the future. If any of those other buildable lots have to build, are you going to grant the same variance? And then are we going to be stuck footing the bill for that? So I wanted to make sure our position was well known, and I provided that to them
Well,
to
then
provide
I-
to the zoning board of appeals.
Then I ask the question, does the zoning board of appeals trump what we say as far as utilities go? I think.
It has,
Can they-
this is following zoning code. The zoning code is
Okay.
what rules.
Okay.
And the zoning board of appeals is who would make the recommendation to council. But as it appears now, there is not a lot of support for this.
And who is the developer at this point?
I do not recall off the top of my
Okay,
head.
thank you. But yeah, it's important that we look at that stuff as it comes
Yes.
across your desk, because those are the kind of things that can really leave us open to a can of worms down the road.
Absolutely.
Obviously. Good catch, thank you.
Mr. Chairman? Yeah, the zoning board reviews all the codes in Avon Lake, and the utility has to provide the information so that the code is followed correctly. Otherwise, they can turn their variance down.
Okay.
Thank you. Also joining us at the meeting now is Mr. Tony Coyne from Manager Gavin, present at the meeting. So no problem.
5 minutes late, man.
Next item on the agenda is expenditures. It's our goldenrods. Do we have a motion this evening for approval?
Mr. Chairman? I move to approve Avon Lake regional water expenses from March 28th through April 11th, 2024.
And I second.
Thank you for the second discussion.
Mr. Chairman, I have one question.
Tony?
On the second page, Fund 762 ETL2, the repairs at the well pump, was there major damage there?
What number?
Number one on Fund 6762 ETL2.
Oh, right
Pump number
there.
2 repair at the ETL.
I believe that was just a kind of a complete rebuild of that pump. I don't think that one had been rebuilt since those were originally installed, and that was just kind of a general overhaul of.
Okay, well, it's a repair, not rebuild, that's what I wondered.
Mhm.
Okay, thank you, that's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
On that item, also that's a shared cost with the ETL members.
Yes, that's paid out of the ETL2 fund. So any of the users of ETL2, all share in that cost.
Okay. Mr. Ricky.
Yeah, page one, account Fund 701, number 54, HDR Inc. Help me out here. Redundancy and future capacity plan. What is Stanek doing? Isn't that what I'm a little confused here on when does this HDR project, what is that and how does Stanek work together?
So that there's a couple parts to that. So this expense line item 54 for HDR, that is titled, the project is titled Redundancy and Future Capacity Plan. We have done several amendments to that original contract. So those costs for $8,971 are attributable to the construction management of the project at the water filtration plant. That's an amendment that the board approved.
Okay,
So
they haven't started yet.
they have, we've with our meetings that we've had. Now, I will say that is in the process right now. It was paid out of that account. That should have been paid out of the construction fund, and Mr. Logan is working on getting that journal entry taken care of. Stantec is going to be performing our water system comprehensive master plan. That's completely different than what this project was.
Redundancy and future capacity has nothing to do with
The master planning.
master plan.
When the redundancy and future capacity plan started, it started in 2019, I believe. We had to comply with the US EPA's risk and resiliency assessment. So that was how things started. And then it morphed into the design for the ETL project and also the design of the water filtration plant. And then from there, the construction management services with HDR on the water filtration plant.
Okay, as long as we're not duplicating things here,
No,
that's
we are
my
not.
concern. And so from here on out, HDR should be on the construction side, not the water fund side.
Yes, that is
Okay,
correct.
thank you. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes,
I need help with my screen.
pardon me?
Need help with my screen.
You need help with your screen.
Well,
Is it froze?
It's fine.
Okay,
It's
It
okay.
is?
Sometimes mine freezes, but
okay.
you just leave it.
Okay.
So we have a motion, a second. We'll close discussion. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Motion approved. Next item on the agenda is the legislative updates. Mr. Monroe.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Last week, I did spend a few days in Washington, D.C. Originally, as part of my duties as the Vice Chairman of the Water Utility Council for Ohio. This is our annual fly-in that we do every year. And I did want to provide a summary to the board related to the items that we discussed with our legislators in DC. The first item was related to PFAS, as this is a topic that we've discussed numerous times. It just so happened the timing was that the US EPA released new guidelines for PFAS while we were in DC. But what we're encouraging our legislators to do is hold the polluter, the one who generated the PFAS, hold them responsible for the costs associated with cleanup. We as a utility obviously will do the right thing. And if we do the right thing, we do not want to be included with any litigation under the Comprehensive Environmental Response Compensation and Liability Act, commonly not called CERCLA, as we know we like our acronyms. But what we've asked, our ask of them is to provide the utilities an exemption under CERCLA. And if we do things the right way, we should not be brought into any litigation. So that's been an ongoing conversation for a couple of years. It was well received with several of our legislators in our meetings. The next item has to do with continual investment in water infrastructure. As we know, we have leveraged federal and state money over the years. Majority of our debt service that we have now is in the form of OWDA loans, which is funded through the state's revolving loan fund. And the problem that we're finding now is when the federal government brought back earmarks, they are funding those earmarks by taking the money right off the top of the federal money, and it's less money going to the state revolving loan fund. And for the current budget year, 56% of the funding that should go to the state revolving loan funds was sent to earmarks. So it's not going to be a revolving loan fund any longer if that continues. So we do have support from specifically Senator Vance of Ohio. His policy from his office is he does not partake in any earmarks. So we're not against the earmarks. We just are asking that they find the funding somewhere else and fully fund those state revolving funds.
Mr. Monroe, on that issue, where does that stand in terms of financing our projects in the future?
The money is there, but for instance, if the state revolving funds, loan funds would have been fully funded, they are approved at $3.25 billion for across all the states. And this year it was about 1.2 million or 2 billion that was allocated. So the money is there. There still is money. It didn't affect us on our most recent funding, but the intent is as we pay into those revolving loan funds, it builds the fund and it builds the fund for future lending. And if they continue in this trend, it's going to significantly harm those loan funds.
Mr. Chairman, is this where the OWDA gets the money?
Yes, the OWDA gets their money from the
Yeah.
state revolving loan funds.
Next item.
The next item, well, this isn't a huge issue for Avon Lake Regional Water. It is an issue for many of our colleague utilities in the state of Ohio, and that is promoting water affordability in local communities. They did a 2-year pilot study similar to what they've done in the gas and electric LIHEAP. I think everyone's heard of that acronym. It was called LIWAP, which was Water Assistance Program, and they did a 2-year pilot study. Several of the bigger utilities that do have significantly more disadvantaged areas of their service area, they did take advantage of that and helped out a lot of their customers. So it currently is not funded. It's an item that they're asking to bring back as a permanent program.
Mr. Monroe, in that situation, is this a separate entity that comes in and actually pays the bill?
It would be so in LIHEAP, it's a subsidy that comes from the government is how it's funded, and that was how they funded. They used the American Rescue Plan, the ARPA money, to fund the pilot program for the water side. And for instance, Cincinnati Metropolitan Water District, which has millions of customers. They utilized about $6,300 over the course of that 2 years from this program. So not a huge amount for a very large utility.
But no impact on the utilities themselves.
Correct.
Thank you.
Quick question on that. Do we have to do anything to apply for this money, or does the homeowner apply for it, or how does it?
It works? It's income based.
So
that's why I say
through
that
them.
in Avon Lake, our user base does not necessarily qualify. We do, as a utility, have our partnership with CSR or CRS,
CRS, thank you.
that we fund a pot of money, and when they have, it's administered by CRS.
CRS
So when they have people that need assistance on specifically for water or sanitary sewer bills, they can go to CRS, apply, and they qualify them. Once that fund gets down, they come back to us. We make sure the accounting is all above board, and then we will fund it again.
Gotcha. So there's nothing we as a utility need to do with
No.
regarding this particular program.
Correct.
Gotcha. That's what my question. If there was something that we needed to be proactive on to get ourselves in position to receive that money if necessary.
Right. And the final topic that we discussed was cybersecurity. We discuss this often in our meetings. Last year when I was in DC, the US EPA just handed out their guidelines for cybersecurity assessments for water utilities. And they basically put it on the backs of the states. And so they told the states, when you go, Ohio EPA, when you go do a sanitary survey at the water utility, you're going to do a cybersecurity assessment as well. And Ohio EPA said, but we're not qualified to do that. So there was a lot of pushback on that. And they did reel that back in. So there's not a specific bill that is put forward right now, but we're making our legislators aware that they instituted standards of practice in the energy market for cybersecurity. And we said that was developed by a third party, and every utility is different. And so it needs to be a common sense approach. Obviously, us as a utility, we have already taken a proactive approach, but unfortunately, there's smaller utilities that are underfunded that can't afford an expansive program. But we don't want this to be another regulation that just gets handed down to us from the US EPA and basically says, comply with it. We want it to be a common sense. So aside from those topics, I did have a couple meetings, mostly with staff members of Congress, but I did meet with, did briefly speak with Senator Vance. I also spoke with Congressman Troy Balderson. He represents the 12th district in Ohio, which is kind of the Columbus area. But we had a very good meeting. He was very interested in the work that our utility is doing. So all in all, very positive, and we will continue to do that work. As this year wraps up, I was asked by my colleagues on the Water Utility Council to take over the chairmanship of the Water Utility Council for the next 3 years. And I will commit to that. And again, I think it's important that we have a voice for not just our utility, but all of our utilities in Ohio. That's all I have. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you for that update. Any comments or
Very good.
questions on that? All right. Next item under informational items is basically our project updates. Mr. Yurnich.
Thank you. For the power plant update, still their focus is on the north side of Lake Road with demolition. The main turbine hall that has been, half of it has been opened up. Most of it's not visible from Lake Road, but on the back half. On the eastern end of that area, they've started demolition all the way down through multiple levels, all the way down to the basement. The next big, I guess, event for late May, early June is when they're planning on the first implosion of one of the main stacks. As that date gets closer, they'll get the exact date to us, and we'll be aware of that going on. For the ETL design services, no updates at this time.
Can I bring that up just to Mr. Chairman?
Sure.
What do we need to do to light a fire to get this thing going, Mr. Monroe? I mean, this has been we've been treading water with this, and we've had so many breaks in that ETL line. We're kind of running on borrowed time here, and it's been a year that I've been, well, at least a year that I recall that we've really kind of done, nothing's progressed.
Mhm.
I mean, I know, but in this behind scenes with the railroad, there's been some negotiations, but I think it's time to get this project rolling here.
If you recall, we talked at the last meeting about we've made the decision that we are redesigning the route that is going to go under the railroad tracks because the railroad was unwilling to negotiate. While the price was not specifically attractive, what they wanted for their license fee, it was the fact that they were only going to grant us a 20-year license. So the final design of that is being finalized. We had to stop on our easement acquisitions until that final design is completed, so that we can move forward then with the remaining easement acquisitions. So trust me, this is something that we definitely want. This is long overdue, and we want the project to move forward. And we think that we are seeing some progress now. It's just there's no update at this time because they're finalizing.
Do we see this going out for bid yet this year?
That's our hope.
Okay.
We also have to. We are in the process of renegotiating the agreements. We also have to renegotiate the ETL agreements with all of our customers.
Was that up this year?
No, because this is a change in incurring more debt because it will be paid for by the ETL 1 and ETL 2 customers. So
Is this going to be a single project, meaning the line from the water plant to the ETL pump house will be part of, and then the entire ETL line down the railroad tracks? That's all going to be one project, one contract?
It'll be one contract, or it may be in 2 phases, but
Okay.
it would be one contract.
That's
Yes, because
reassuring.
we're doing an owner procurement on materials
right.
to save money, and we would procure all the materials at one
And
time.
that's going to take some area. Definitely.
Hence why we would need the expanded easements for laydown. And when
Do you need an easement for laydown?
yes, because we have temporary construction easements, and we have
temporary.
We have
easements?
temporary, which is a 60-foot, and then we have an additional 30-foot perpetual easement that we're adding on to the existing.
To the south side of the easement that we have currently?
It would be to the east and the west on the suction line.
Oh, east and west on the
East and
suction
west
line.
On
Okay.
along the tracks, that's another area that is getting redesigned because there was parts that are going across railroad property And again, we're taking that off of railroad property, and we would much rather deal with private property owners as opposed to the railroad.
Man, oh man. Okay.
Thank you. Mr. Ernst, continue, please.
The water filtration plant improvements. April 3rd, we had the pre-construction meeting with the Great Lakes Construction Company. We got their proposed site layout and preliminary construction schedule for the first several weeks. This week, they're mobilizing to their field office, 92 Moore Road, and they're going to begin staging equipment next week.
Good.
May 9th is currently the date that they're anticipating actually breaking ground. So we're looking forward to that, see that project get moving. For the inductively coupled plasma mass spectrometer, the staff is still finalizing getting their submittal to the Ohio EPA so that they can get their certification tests scheduled. Now that they're becoming a little more comfortable with the equipment, one of the things we were taking a look at is the fees that we would charge for those testing. When they would run the tests on the older equipment, it was a lot more labor intensive, took a lot more time. One of the goals that we have is kind of increasing the amount of samples that they're taking in from other organizations. So we want to make sure that our fees obviously align with what it actually costs us to run, to make sure that we're not doing it less than we should be. But at the same time, we want to make sure that it's relatively competitive with other laboratories. Being close as a laboratory offers advantages, but if the cost of the tests would prohibit somebody from bringing all of their samples here, that doesn't really benefit us. So we're kind of doing the cost analysis there and see if we can improve our customer base when it comes to laboratory testing.
How big a revenue stream is that?
Well, especially with the lead and coppers,
Okay.
that is the main one that
Nobody else can do.
other areas would be interested in bringing. We've spoken with some of the neighboring communities, some of the neighboring water plants, and they have expressed interest. So
Okay.
we want to take a look at our fees and make sure that they line up with
Okay.
what they can get elsewhere.
Some market there. Okay, thank you.
And the SCADA communication upgrade, small update. They're just still working on the layout of the dedicated server room. Once we have that, we can see about moving forward with that project.
Thank you.
Good.
Our next item on the agenda is the COE report, Mr. Monroe.
I do not have anything else to report this evening. I kind of covered my activities earlier in the meeting.
Thank you. It's time for members' reports or anything miscellaneous. Any member reports this evening?
I don't have any, Mr. Richmond.
Mr. Ricky?
Yeah, I always have something, you know me. Just a follow up, if we could, on the Lear Road flooding situation. If we made whole two of those 3 houses that had sewer backup, and what is the ultimate decision? What's going to happen there, or what the cause was, or we kind of got to the root cause?
Yeah, the root cause was, Avon sent us quite a bit of flow at one time. That's the root cause. We opened up a claim with our insurance company. The insurance adjuster has been assigned. They're contacting the residents
Okay.
to make them whole, and it'll be handled there. But we will subrogate the claim with Avon's insurance company.
Is Avon aware of that?
Yes, they are.
Okay.
They are.
Very
And
good.
we met with Avon. They did make some adjustments there, but also there's a few things that we need to look at in regards to when the agreements were done, 20 years ago, 25 years ago, and stated capacities and how much flow, and ensuring that it's adequate for what they need. So there may be some changes to the agreements that'll be forthcoming.
Okay.
But yes, it is moving, and
I just, these things show up in reports, and sometimes I want to make sure that we're following up on these things. And I guess the other one is this polymer issue. Did we really narrow down the Pin Oak Parkway polymer issue?
we did not nail it down yet. We just received from our contract laboratory. We just received today results on 2 of our samples. and we're reviewing those. We are still awaiting results on the other samples, but it is clean. Staff's been checking, making sure. And Mr. Urnich, I know was following up with Mr. Hill from the water reclamation facility and the pretreatment aspect of it. So once we have that determined, we will take appropriate action and we will update the board.
Yeah, and if you would just make sure that these are someplace we don't lose track of them, that's
Yep,
all.
absolutely
And
not.
we finish off and make sure that we dot the i's and cross the t's on these two issues. Thank you.
Great. Anything else from the board?
No.
It's time for public speakers again. Anyone wishing to comment from the audience? Anybody in cyberspace?
Mr. Dwanzig.
Getting some comments. Personnel issues, are those able to be?
We do not comment publicly on personnel issues.
And other than personnel issues, there are no comments at this time.
Okay, thank you. All right, the next item is a request for an executive session to discuss the compensation of public employees and pending or imminent court action. The CUE does not anticipate any formal action of the board following the executive session. This would be a roll call vote. Mr. Schnabel, would you like to make that?
Sure. I move to meet in executive session as allowed by Ohio Revised Code Section 121.22 G1 and G3 to discuss the compensation of a public employee and pending or imminent court actions, and to include the CUE, CUO, and a representative from Mansard Avon.
Is there a second?
Second?
Okay, since it's a roll call vote, Mr. Abram,
Aye.
Mr. Ricky,
Aye.
Mr. Schnabel,
Yes.
and the chair votes yes. Okay, we're adjourned to executive session. Thank you for your attendance.
Thank you.
Appreciate your stopping in.
Like I said, really enjoyed it.
Quiet event.